Hello, Sitram, everyone, and welcome. So we're about to start, and as always, first thing we do is to offer a brief prayer. So let us begin. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Then we worship Bhagwan Shri Ganesh in all of his manifestations. So the words are on the screen, so please follow if you can and chant loudly. Om Ekarantaya Vidmahi Vakratundaya Dhimahi Tanno Danti Prachodayat. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Hey Bhagwan Shri Ganesh, we meditate on that one tusk. That one tusk represents focus. Hey Bhagwan, we bow before you, the Vakratunda, the one whose tusk is curved, representing the curvature of our minds and our thoughts. Hey Bhagwan, please straighten our mind, give us focus, and guide us in the right direction. This now is a universal Murti. It represents this Kshetra, this Kurukshetra. It represents this Dharma Kshetra, which is this gross physical body, the causal body, the subtle body. It represents all of creation. Hey Bhagwan, we bow before you in all of your manifestations. Om Aim Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Om Han Hanumate Namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hey Bhagwan Shri Krishna, on behalf of all of us gathered here, on behalf of our beloved country, on behalf of this whole world, we offer this to you, Shri Krishna. Om Shri Hari Krishnaya Vasudevaya Hare Paramatmane Pranata Klesha Nashaya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om. Hey Bhagwan Shri Krishna, this klesh, this coloring of our mind, which causes impure thoughts, which causes poor judgment, please remove this from us, Lord Krishna. We bow to Shiv Parvati. Om Vagarta Viva Sampraktau Vagarta Pratipattaye Jagata Pitarau Vande Parvati Parameshwarau. Hey Bhagwan Shiv, Hey Mata Parvati, you are like the sun, you are like the rays of the sun. The rays of the sun cannot be separated from the sun. The warmth of the sun cannot be separated from the sun. So too, Bhagwan, so too, Mata, words cannot be separated from the meaning, and the meaning cannot be separated from the words. So too, you are non-dual, you are singular. Hey Mata Parvati, Hey Bhagwan Shiv, please bless us tonight and always. In particular, tonight, we're about to start a very special chapter of Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15. Help us to understand the words, the meaning, and the intention behind the words and the meaning. Om Shri Paramatmane Namaha. Ata Srimad Bhagavad Gita. I now hand over to Panditji, who will lead us in the first shloka of Gita Dhyana. Panditji, Pundit Sivananda.
Bole Sri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Sitaram, everyone. It's a blessing to be here this evening. Having been this given this opportunity, I ask all of you, Jotkar, clasp hands, close eyes. Let us engage in Bhagwan ki Pratna, as in the first verse, and also one or two other verses of Bhagwan's Gita Dhyanam. Om Shri Ganeshaya Namaha. Om Shri Saraswatyai Namaha. Om Shri Guru Charana Kamalebhyo Namaha. Om Shri Vyasaya Namaha. Om Namo Paramatmane Namaha. Om Parthaya Pratibhuritam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratita Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrita Varshinim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaadhyayinim Amba Tvamanusandadhami Bhagavad Gite Bhavatveshinim Om Sarvopanishado Gavo Dhokta Gopala Nandana Partho Varsa Sudhir Bhokta Dugdham Gitamritam Mahata Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Devyaistavaihi Vedai Sanghapada Kramopanishadai Gayanti Yam Samaga Dhyanavastita Targatena Manasaha Pashyantayam Yogino Yasyantam na virutsura suragana devaya tasmai namaha. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bole Vyas Maharaj ki jai. Bole
Right.
Sri Krishna Maharaj ki jai.
Right.
Thank you, Panditji. Thank you, Bhaiji, very much for this opportunity, for this invitation. So I think at this time you have the Gita
Yes.
Namvali. So we'll go into that one time. You can go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Panaji. So 18 names of Bhagavad Gita. These names were extracted many centuries ago by the revered rishis and sages, and it is said that whoever chants these 18 names with reverence, you extract the essence of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. It helps us to understand Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So together, the words on the screen. Om Gita Ganga Gayatri Sita Satya Saraswati Brahmvidya Brahmvali Trisandhya Mukta Gehini Ardhamatra Chirananda Bhavagni Bayanashini Veda Trai Para Ananta Tatvarta Jnana Manjari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, let us now begin this most wonderful evening of chapter 15. So on behalf of the management of Sri Krishna Mandir of San Fernando, on behalf of the spiritual head, Pundit Rudranath Maharaj, on behalf of the chairman of the committee, Sri Maldev Maharaj, on behalf of Sri Devendra Rampasad, on behalf of the Bhagavad Gita class of the Sri Krishna Mandir, welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us. It is an honor to be in your presence. Tonight is a very, very special night. We're talking Bhagavad Gita, we're talking chapter 15, Purushottama Yoga, and we have none other than Pundit Sivananda Radhay Maharaj in our presence. Panditji, it is indeed an honor that you would have accepted this invitation to join us. For everyone, and I'm sure everyone knows Panditji, but let me introduce him properly. So Pandit Sivananda, or Panditji, is the son of the late Pandit Ramnaresh Radhay. Panditji is the spiritual head of the Spring Village Mandir, and most of us would know him through watching and listening to him on radio and TV Jagrati. He is the presenter, he is the creator of Krishna Arpanam, a most wonderful program where he goes through shloka by shloka, chanting Bhagavad Gita, reciting, explaining the verses one shloka at a time. He is passionate about learning, spreading Dharma. He is passionate about understanding Bhagavad Gita, sharing the wealth of his knowledge. What strikes me the most about Panditji is his depth of understanding and the humility that he takes in approaching Bhagavad Gita and the simple expression of very complicated topics. And I can think of no one other than Pandit Ji to talk to us about chapter 15, Purushottam Yoga, a very popular chapter. Also, it's a very intricate chapter. So with that said, I would like to introduce Pandit Ji to take over from this point onwards. Pandit Ji Sitaram, and again, welcome on behalf of the Sri Krishna Mandir.
Thank you, Bhaiji, for the humble opportunity in which you have presented here to me today. And again, special blessings to the members of the Mandir and to the committee that would have assisted in organizing this. And as you would have indicated, that this Gita recitation, it is a blessing to be part of it. And I've had the blessing, as you would have mentioned, my late father, Pundit Radhay Maharaj, he would have contributed immensely in my knowledge of Bhagavad Gita and passion as well. And it's a blessing to also be refined through the seniors of our land. I would have mentioned that to you personally, I think. And what I have noticed, particularly in our land, if I may, before we go into the essence of Katha tonight, that we are a land where we are filled through the Sampradaya of the Vaishnava. And we have in our practice a lot of practices which we have merged with from UP, Bihar, or Uttar Pradesh. And we continue to follow, listening and the recitation of Ramchatramanas, the Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Sahasranam. We observe our Deepavali. But when it comes to Bhagavad Gita, there's a little bit of misconception that floods the land that, this is a text or this is something that is only associated with Shrad Karam. And Shrad Karam is very vast. And being very vast now, that there are different rites and rituals that we have to perform. And Gita Dan is only one aspect of Shrad Karam, which is post-death and pre-death. But in life now, Gita Dan can be performed even if it is without the necessity of death. Gita Dan can be performed. So in the context of Shrad Karam and the recitation, listing of Bhagavad Gita, a lot of emphasis has been placed now on particularly when it's that time of death. And one of the things I would like to see is the recitation, the understanding, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita on a larger basis, not only in that capacity. So in today's little session that what I've been given this opportunity, and again, thank you, I have chosen a topic of the Bhagavad Gita where it is that, I think it's a necessity to focus on Purushottam Yoga. And the name itself, Purushottam, is something that we need to understand, and that Katha itself can go on with a Bhagavad. But in this short time, we will attempt to go through these pages of the Bhagavad Gita. And also, there are members of the Mandir present here today from the Spring Village Mandir. While it is that we are going through, I think that we will have one or two bhajans as well included in this session. So before we go into today's Katha, let us offer our sentiments in the form of Kirtanam. This is Gita. Bhagavad Gita. Gita means to sing or to glorify the name of Bhagavan. So we should never be afraid in trying to sing and glorify the name of Hari, because it is one of the Navda Bhakti Kirtanam, where it is that you sing and glorify the name of Bhagavan wholeheartedly. So at this point in time, before we go into Katha, let us offer our prayer in the form of Kirtanam. Jai Jai Radhar Man Hari Bo. 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 Hari Om Shri Krishnaya Namaha Govindaya Namaha. We will do verse 12 of Purushottam Yoga. of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita at this point in time, and followed by other verses of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Hari Om Yadadityagatam Tejo Jagad Bhasayate Kilam Yat Chandramasi Yak Chagnau Tat Tejo Vidhimamakam Aham Sri Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namaha Narayanaya Namo Namaha Gama Vishwacha Bhutani Dharayam Yahamojasa Ushnami Chausari Sarvaha Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha Om Namo Krishnaya Namaha Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamaspritaha Prana Pana Samayukta Pachamyanam Chaturvidam Sarvasya Chaham Hridisam Nimishto Matah Smitir Jnanapohanam Cha Vedaischa Sarve Ahameda Vedyo Vedanta Kritveda Videva Chaham Om Namo Paramatmane Namaha Krishnaya Vasudevaya Govindaya Namaha. एक बार बोले श्री कृष्ण भगवान की जय. So this chapter, Purushottam Yoga, a lot of emphasis should be placed on this chapter, in my opinion, because it is the entire Bhagavad Gita condensed into this chapter. When we are alive, a lot of emphasis should be placed in understanding, reciting scripture, because why? Scripture assists us in molding the proper mindset. When we mold the proper mindset now, it helps us to inculcate proper values in life. So in Bhagavad Gita, we need to understand Bhagavan, we need to understand God. And many people, according to Bhajagovindam, 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 Govindam, Bhajamodhamate, they go through this life in a mundane aspect where it is that they are not present, they are present here, but the mentality, the intellect now, that faculty sometimes is absent in the avenue of spirituality, little interest in spirituality. So they live a life in the form of being absorbed in everything that they have to do. But at the appointed time now, when it is time to have Smaranam of Bhagwan, when they have to exit this world, it is very hard to have that because they have spent little to no time in understanding who is that Supreme. So Purushottam Yoga helps us to understand that Supreme. It helps us to understand, in my opinion, this Jagat, by extension, this universe as well, not only this world, but this universe. It helps us a little bit to understand where we have come from and also where we will go. And it helps us to understand Bhagavan present now in all of the different ways. So as you would have heard, the approach that I'm taking here today, in a little while, we'll focus on the front portion of Bhagavad Gita. But I think the essence of tonight's katha will be missed if it is that I do not shed some light in the important latter verses of today's chapter, because time can go so fast. So we have to also be a little forthwith. Yadadityagatam tejo jagat bhasayate kilam yat chandramasi yat chagnau tat tejo vidhimamakam. 12th verse of 15th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Sri Hari, Sri Krishna Bhagwan, we always remember that Gita is part and parcel of Mahabharat. And Mahabharat is part and parcel of Bhagavatam. So when we are listening, reciting Bhagavad Gita, we are reciting that Mahabhagavatam, that which our ancestors would have sacrificed, bringing to our land, worshipping Hari. And this is how we have an appreciation, a foundation today for this text as well. So today, our night will not also be complete if we do not seek the blessings of our pitris in some way. So possibly at the end of today's session, we will have the blessing where it is that we offer a little prayer for the blessing of the pitris. So yeah, that Yadadityagatam Tejo, the radiance in the sun now, that illumines this entire world. So Bhagavan is speaking about light and the illumination that is coming from the sun, and that will illumine this entire world. So the radiance in the sun that illumines this entire world, and that which shines in the moon and which shines in the fire too, know that radiance to be mine. That was Bhagavan saying, Mamakam, know that radiance to be mine. That Teja Vidhi Mamakam, know that light, know that radiance to be mine. So Bhagavan is telling here that he's the creator of this sun, of this moon, and of this fire, and the radiance that is residing there, that is coming out of such now. It is emanating from his tejas, from his power. So we need to understand as well that that Atma vested in self, this example could also be linked in that capacity, that that Atma is of Paramatma. And our Dharma in this Bhagavad Gita, Advaitamrita Varshinim, it practices now that Advaita philosophy. So when we understand the concept of Jiva, Atma, being of Paramatma, it helps us bring a little more light now to this concept of Advaita Vedanta. Gama Vishwacha Bhutani Dhariyam Yahamojasa Pushnami Chausari Saravaha Somo Bhutva Rasatmakaha. In the prior verse now, the light is being exampled or being brought to us an attention to know that to be mine. So this light emanating from the sun, it is Bhagavan. The Jiva, the light is present inside of you that is emanating through you. Know that to be Bhagavan as well. So Jiva Bhuta and Jiva Loka, you will see in the few verses in a little while, entering this earth, Bhagavan is saying, Gam is the earth, Gam Avishya Chabhutani, and permeating now. So I enter into this world and I support all beings by my tejas. And having become the sapid moon, I will continue to nourish and support all plant life, all herbage, and so forth. So in this ending verses of the Bhagavad Gita in 15th chapter, Bhagavan identifies himself as the inhalation and exhalation, the pran or apan. Bhagavan identifies himself as that Vaishwanara Agni, the Agni where it is that he is responsible for the digestive faculty. And Bhagavan as well, you would have heard us reciting that in this particular blessed chapter of Bhagavad Gita, we have to have remembrance. This is again of the Navda Bhakti, Smaranam. We have to have remembrance of Hari. And when he says, Sarvasya chaham hrisam nimishto matah smitir jnanana pohanam cha, 15th verse of 15th chapter, Veda ischa sarve ahameda vedyo vedanta kritveda videva chaham. We need to remember this verse, that Sarvasya chaham hrisam nimishto. Sarvasya means that all, Sarvasya of all, cha and aham. So of all, I am hridi. I am seated in the hearts of all beings. So sometimes we forget this. We are forgetting that Bhagavan is present in self, Bhagavan is present in family and friends, and also in all of the beings that we share this Jagat with. So Bhagavan himself is present in all beings, and he's the controller, he is the source of all. He's the faculty of knowledge, remembrance, and all these. I use this ending portion of Bhagavad Gita is very similar to Vibhuti Yoga, 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where it is Sri Hari describes his glories, his vibhutis, and his amsas, all of his different manifestations. So 15th chapter as well, the Lord is identifying all of these so that we can have the understanding that he's the origin, the source, the base, the creation of everything in this universe. And most importantly, Tvavimao Purushao Loke, Kshara Eva Cha, 16th verse of Bhagavad Gita in 15th chapter, Bhagavan says that he is the perishable and the imperishable, Kshar or Akshar. And he is the Lord of such as well. Dvavimau Purushau Loke Kshara Kshara Chara Eva Kshara Kshara Sarvani Bhutani Kutasto Kshara Ukshate. So there are two types of Purushas, bodies, that which is perishable and imperishable. So a little while ago, we were speaking about that, this Atma is of Paramatma, but it resides within the body. It resides within this vessel. And this body is temporary, just like the battery life in the phone, just like the internet connection, just like the clothing, everything is temporary. But imperishable now, that is of Bhagavan, that is of Hari, that soul, that Jiva, that Atma, it is imperishable. And Bhagavan in this chapter, where it is that he identifies, this is the essence where I love from this chapter, Uttama Purushastvanya Paramatmi Tudahridaha, Yolo Katrama Vishya Vibhartya Vaya Ishwaraha. But this distinct is that Supreme Purusha. He is the highest of the high, the indestructible, the one who is pervading and the one who sustains. That individual, he is referred to as that Purushottam. Hence, this reason is called Purushottam Yoga, this chapter. Because that Purushottam, what this chapter is speaking about, He is perishable, he is imperishable, he is beyond that which is called perishable, that which is called imperishable as well. He transcends that. So this is why the Ved, this is why in the Bhagavad Gita, in this chapter, it emphasizes in the mind of man that you have to be undiluted in knowing this Hari, this form, this roop of Bhagavan, this Sri Krishna, this Sampurna avatar, he who is the highest self, he who is the highest of the high, beyond that highest self, this Purushottam. We need to pay attention in understanding and worshiping and surrendering with all our hearts. So in life now, this is where the challenge comes in my opinion. We know about God. We know that belonging to Dharma, whether it is that you are Hindu, Muslim, Christian, you have to have a understanding about whether it is the Christ, whether it is Allah, whether it is of Sri Krishna. But that enlightenment comes from your own effort. You cannot wait now for anyone else to have this profound teaching to you. Unless you are like Arjuna. Arjuna and Bhagavan, they were like Sakha. So Bhagavan and Bhakta, the Bhakta now was the Sakha, the friend of Hari. And in the battlefield, he realized that you are that Yogeshwar, oh Lord. Forgive me if I have approached you in any way, if I have said anything to you, because he's enlightening the Bhakta. So when the Bhakta become enlightened now, he has realization. And in the realization now, in the earlier portions of Bhagavad Gita, we always try to remember that Arjuna's realization was needed because he is of the Kshatriya Dham. He has to perform his duty of the warrior. And in the battlefield now, for him to perform his duty, he is now dumbfounded because he's seeing his relation on the other side. He cannot perform such. So what happens? This is where Bhagavan enlightens the Bhakta. So we need to get this enlightenment, and most importantly, Purushottam Yoga. We need to have this present in this mind, that this Gyan, this Brahm Gyan, helps us in doing our duty, helps us in performing our obligations and performing the aspects in life. This becomes the tool of enlightenment. And we always mention that our dharma goes hand in hand, our Sanatan Dharma. We have the Purusharthas. Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. As you would have seen some of the slides Bhaiji was showing a little while ago, that in our mode of living in this world, we have to have some sort of governing rules, morals, and values. And through living life now, you will have artha, wealth that you will get now. But when you have wealth now, you will also have calm because you want to put that into some use as well. But never forget now the level of why it is that you have achieved this body, to achieve that which is moksha. And this chapter capsulates this as well too. And we always remember that there are different levels of moksha. If time permits, we might touch briefly on that. So I see in our session tonight, if I am not mistaken, I would have gotten a message from Nandini, who is a member of the Spring Village Mandir. And also we have her mother there as well, Auntie Mati, and also Auntie Mala, the treasurer of our Mandir, and we have our secretary of our Mandir from the Spring Village Mandir in Balmain. So at this point in time, I'd like to hand over to Nandini to give us a little bhajan or kirtan to continue in the mode of bhakti before we go further in our session here tonight. And again, special blessings to all those who are here, glorifying the name of Hari, glorifying the name of Bhagavan. So Nandini, my dear, are you there?
Sitaram Pandit Shiva, yes, I am here.
Sitaram, okay. You go ahead.
Sitaram, everyone. He Murali Shridhara Radhe Krishna Radhesha. He Murali Shridhara Radhe Krishna Radhesha. Keshav Madhav Yadav Nandan Radhe Krishna Radhesha. Keshav Madhav Yadav Nandan Radhe Krishna Radhesha. Nand Nandan Radhesha. Navnita Chora Radhesha. Nand Nandan Radhesha. Navnita Chora Radhesha. Keshav Madhav Yadav Nandan Radhe Krishna Radhesha. Keshav Madhav Yadav Nandan Radhe Krishna Radhesha. Bhaktavatsal Radhesha. भगवत प्रिय राधेश्याम
भक्तवत्सल राधेश्याम भगवत प्रिय राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
पांडुरंगा राधेश्याम पंढरीनाथा राधेश्याम
पांडुरंगा राधेश्याम पंढरीनाथ राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
हे मुरली श्रीधरा राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
हे मुरली श्रीधरा राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम
केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम केशव माधव यादव नंदन राधे कृष्ण राधेश्याम। बोलो श्री कृष्ण कन्हैया लाल की जय।
Ram Bhajo. Thank you very much, Nandini. Thank you very much, Auntie Mati, in the background there for the little chorus there. So we are speaking a little bit tonight about Purushottam Yoga in this setting here, and a little bit to highlight in this chapter. This chapter encapsulates very beautifully Purushottam Yoga, the highest of the high form of Bhagwan, Sri Hari, where it is that the Lord is explaining here, Yasmaksharam atitoham aksharam apichotama atosmi loke vedecha pratita Purushottama, that, oh Arjuna, know me as that Purushottam, the highest Purushotta, because he transcends now that which is the perishable and imperishable. So he being the source, the creator of all of the forms of life, we should not be deluded in understanding that Hari, that form of Bhagwan. Because when we understand that Hari, we need to surrender, worship him with all of our hearts. And when it is that we are doing that now, we are being part of this form of devotion by immersion. So always remember, when you have your devotion, you have to have immersion, and that is the man immersion of mind, tongue with body, and everything in which you are doing. You have to have that immersion, because this birth in which you have, Bhare Bhagyo Manush Tana Pava, we always remind ourselves in the mandir. I take the opportunity in the program and wherever I go, that this birth is rare. The location, the opportunity that you have, it is rare. So perform your duty, perform your oblations, your obligations, and utilize this birth for the enlightenment, because it is a vehicle to reach the higher abode. So we should not have attachments to such. So in the earlier portions of the Bhagavad Gita, I hope I have done a little bit of justice encapsulating one of the essence that, in case time goes out, we would not want to miss this highlight of this chapter, where Bhagwan explains, and why he explains he's called Purushottam is because he's beyond perishable and imperishable. But how does this thing now pertain now to Bhagwan and to God and us doing our duty and going to work and earning a living and raising children, all of these things? How does that knowledge of Bhagwan telling to Arjuna now, oh Arjuna, I am beyond Atma, I am beyond Jagat, I am beyond everything, I am beyond that which is perishable, and even that which is imperishable, I am beyond that. How does this help? In the earlier portion of this Bhagavad Gita, chapter 15 itself, in the earlier portion of the Gyan Kand, if I may, because when we apply Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Gyan Yoga, some say that this Bhagavad Gita is divided into these aspects. So it focuses in cultivating now proper action, proper swabhav, proper bhakti, and proper knowledge as well is very, very important. And this chapter is very beautiful in understanding now this jagat, this world, and what is your duty and how you should live in this mode of this world in order to achieve now merging with this Purushottam, merging with this Hari, having this understanding. So not only at the time of death now, when it is that you have to listen to our Baba speaking about that this body, there's not this only body, this is Atma, Atma, Atma. You have little to no collection and recollection of that because life was not spent in understanding that. So this jargon is new. But when it is that we have this blessing now to understand Jiva and Atma and all of these things now, it helps us to know now what is this that is being spoken about. So 15th chapter helps us understanding this as well. So Bhagavan says, Hari Om Namo Paramatmane Namaha Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Udhvamulamada Ashwatam Prahuravyayam Chandamsi Yasya Parnani Yastam Vedasa Vedavita Om Namo Krishnaya Namaha Namo Paramatmane Namaha Adahastrodhvam Prasyatastasya Shaka Gunapravidha Vishaya Pravala Arhascha Mulanyanusantani Karmanubandhini Manushya न रूपमस्येह ततोपलभ्यते नान्तो न चादिर्न च सम्प्रतिष्ठा अश्वत्थमेनं सुविरुद्धमूलम् असङ्गशस्त्रेण धृतेन चित्वा ततः परं तत्परिमार्गितव्यम् यस्मिन् गता न निवर्तन्ति भूयः तमेव चाद्यं पुरुषं प्रपद्ये यतः प्रवृत्ते प्रसता पुराणी Om Namo Paramatmane Namaha Om Namo Krishnaya Namaha Om Namo Bhajagovindaya Namaha एक बात बोलिए श्री वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय. So 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita today, Purushottam Yoga, we are speaking about, and we need to know about this now. This material world, and this first verse explains now about Urdhvamulamada Shakam Ashwatam Prahuravhyayam. You see, Sri Hari in this beautiful chapter of Bhagavad Gita is speaking about now a comparative verse, a comparative word, the peepal tree, the banyan tree also being used as a form of comparison in reference to this jagat, this creation. And Urdhvamulamada Shakam, so he who knows now this banyan tree, this peepal tree in the form of creation, is said to be imperishable. So this is a representation of such now, representing that form of creation, which is said to be imperishable. And with its roots, which is established in Hari, which is established in Bhagavan. And the branches of this tree that represents this creation now, also whose branch represented by Brahma, the creator as well. And the leaves now represents as well the pearl of the gunas, the different Vedas, and the ones who know about this now is a Vedavit. This is a know of the Vedas. So let the last verse rather the last word in this chapter, in this verse rather, encapsulate this meaning now. So Vedavit is a knower. So if I am a knower of something, that makes me knowledgeable of something, then I may be certified in something. So which is good because we have a lot of people who are certified in different things. But if I'm a knower of, let's say we are all Trinidadians, there may be some participants that are not Trinidadians here. But if it is I'm a knower of something now, I'm a knower of doubles. Let's say this, I'm a Trini. So I'm a knower of doubles. You know about it. You go to some chef school and they teach you how to make the bara and everything now. And you have become now a know of this art of making these doubles now. But you never taste this thing in life. How will you know now that which you have created and how palatable it is? And so to other individual, if you have to explain this thing, you could explain how to make it, but you could never explain how it tastes. So too, the Vedavit, there are many people in life now that can chant Bhagavad Gita. There are many people in life that knows Ramayana, Sumiran. There are many people that knows the scriptures without even looking at them now. And this is marvelous. That is good. We need to have that. But the nature of Bhagavan is encapsulated in this scripture. And he can only be realized now when it is that you are you have surrendered and you are living now that which the Vedas has laid down for you, the Shastras that way where they have laid down for you. So this Vedavit now is not only the knower, but he's the practitioner of that which the Ved is saying. So Bhagavan says that know this people tree to represent this Jagat, this creation, this world, this universe. And its roots, meaning that Urdhva Moolama it goes up, and Adha Shaka, Urdhva Moolam Adha Shaka. This first verse is talking about roots growing up and branches coming down. So we know normally roots are supposed to grow down, but this is another representation that the roots are not down, but it is established, it is fixed in something supreme. And when you understand now further to that now, that this representation, everything is this Bhagavan, you have to understand that what the Lord is trying to tell you. The second verse is saying here, Adhaschodhvam prasyatastasya shaka guna pravidha vishaya pravala adhasya mulanyanu santatani karmanubhandini manushya. So even again, just as what we did in the first verse, Vedavit, where we want to understand that karmanubhandini manushya. What causes birth and birth again now? This karma bandhana, this bond in which karma has now on the practitioner of who is living in this world. So whichever form that you have, whether it is you belong to Trinidad, Canada, US, you will be agitated now by the objects that you come into contact with. And this example is also giving you now that where the source of such has come from, fed by these gunas now, having the objects now, the sense objects for the tender leaves, this tree is representing now not only the Jagat, but the different orders of creation. So some of us, when we do Gayatri, we do chanting of the different levels, Om Bhu, Om Bhuvaha, Om Swaha, Om Maha, Om Janaha, Om Tapaha, Om Satyam. So this is one example. The scripture speaks about that the different lokas. So this tree is also representing such. And what causes the bondage now is the attachment of the area, the pleasures of the area now, that the soul, the Atma, will go to such. So Bhagavan says, this is why he is saying here, Narupa masya hatopalabhyate nacha adib nacha sampratishta. So he's saying the nature of this tree now. So all what we just spoke about in the two verses, this high philosophy, that this universe is being represented by this tree, this Jagat is being represented by this tree. Very rare man will have this understanding. Because as we said earlier, that sometimes that when we have not been molded in the proper way, how can we expect to achieve something? So if a child has not been taught something, how it is that he can be expected to perform? So this verse is speaking about something very, very important. And what is it that this verse is saying? Ashwatthamenam subinudhamulam asanga shastrena dridhena chitva. You see, karma that will bind the soul, karma that will bind now, the man now, through whichever tendency, whether it is through rajas, tamas, or sattva, whether it is through some desire or through some ignorance, or even through the mode of light. This is what causes now this again, the momentum of birth and rebirth now. So when it is that Bhagavan is speaking in this Bhagavad Gita, and he says, Ashwathameram subinudhamulam, asanga sastrena didena chitva. We have to understand detachment in order to practice it. And sometimes we have to go through attachment as well in order to practice it. And one of the things that I told in this misconception that, in our land, the Bhagavad Gita is always thought about as a text only where it is that it comes to some aspect of death, where it is that you're going to do a Gita part, someone is dying, or you're going to a 10 days, a 13 days, a 5.5 month, 1 year, whichever it is. If it is that you are doing such now, and it is expected as a norm that is a text that Bhagavad Gita you're going to hear. And it is not the only session where it is that you can hear that, So this is something that we have to change now. So if it is that you have exposed oneself to it, we can understand that. So to the attachment now, sometimes in the capacity of death, that is when we get this light. And that is when we understand the importance of detaching. And hand in hand, the scripture speaks about this. So this is the avenue in which it is that we are supposed to get this level of non-attachment. So the scripture is speaking, Narupa masye hatato phalabhyate, that the form of this people tree, everything which is being spoken about here, the form of this now, it does not even mature, it does not even be present in the mind of man. But this which is being represented as not having beginning, middle, and end, that which was yesterday will not remain the same today. All of the happenings, all of this representation, this people tree is representing, which it is firmly established. It has to be removed with detachment. So too, as we were saying here, only when samsara gives you the opportunity, you may go through it. And how have you gotten that through that opportunity? Karma pradhan so koi rakha. As you sow, so shall you reap. You have incurred that karma. So to this birth in which you have there, you have achieved that birth and this karma in which it is that you are going through. You have really earned this and deserved this of all of these species of life. And if it is your mind does not mature now in thinking about now, seeing Bhagwan even in the presence of this Jagat, then we have a lot of work to do, because the beings we share this world with is Bhagwan, the plants, the animals. You are the Lord, soul vested in you is Lord. The elements in which this body is made up of it is Lord. All of these aspects are very, very important for us to understand. And when we understand that, my dear friends, you see that which we're speaking about, asanga sastrena didhena chitva, detachment, then it's a little bit easier to detach, because you could only be attached to something that is not yours, you know. Or rather, you can only be attached to something that is yours. And well, sometimes you're attached to things mostly that are not ours, because the body is temporary. Many construct large structures, and that is even temporary. Your life is temporary. The structure might be longer than you, so you have created something for someone else. And even in the ending moments, you are so attached to that. And sometimes in the ending moments of the other person's life, you're remembering how much the other person was attached to it as well. So around, you have a cycle of attachment going on there. So to this scripture, my dear friends, is very, very important. In reciting some of these verses, I think I would have recited up to verse 4. So we are speaking a little bit about detaching from this samsara. We have to inculcate this now, this vairagya, this dispassion, this non-attachment now, to mold and to inculcate that gyan, that mind. And when this mind is matured now, so only the mature mind now will understand all of these things. The man who is living like a bhogi and not the yogi, you're talking about all this high philosophy to him now. What do you want to hear about this now? He doesn't want to hear anything about this. But you put on a good chutney and some other things now, well, you got him over there. So to look like this forum, we may have all of the members that are present here, and thank you for taking this time. You know, you could have chosen to do anything anywhere else, but you are listening to the name of Hari, the name of Bhagavan. And this is very, very, very important for your spiritual growth, your spiritual development. Because this is yagya, you know, this is sacrifice what you are doing here. And this is swadhyaya, where you are going and introspecting now. All of this reconstitution for self now. So this momentum that you're supposed to have in life to go to Bhagwan, you will surely get it based on this setting of satsang. This is what our forefathers throughout our land would have inculcated. One of the setting, if you want to learn something, find yourself in satsang, and the glory of the Lord will always be there. So before we go further again, I think I would have said Auntie Mala is here tonight. Auntie Mala, if it is that you are present here tonight, before I go further, I think I would have gone up to verse 4. But I think I'm feeling to listen to a little kirtan again. Huh? So Auntie Mala, if you're there, can I have a little kirtan by you, please?
Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari He Narayana Vasudeva Shri Krishna Govind Hare Murari He
Narayane Vasudeva. He Narayana He Vasudeva. He Narayana He Vasudeva. He Narayana Vasudeva. Shri Krishna Govinda Hare Murari He Narayana Vasudeva. Gopala Gopala Devaki Nandana Gopala 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 Devaki Nandana 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 Gopala 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 Devaki Nandana Gopala 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 Devaki Nandana Gopala. Sitaram.
Bolo Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Thank you very much, Auntie Mala, and special blessing as well to Nandini before. And while it is that lovely kirtan was going on, I'd like to say thank you to members of the Mandir. I see through the invitation, we have members logged in. We have our president, we have our PRO, Auntie Chansi, Mr. Singh. We have members of the Mandir that are there, Auntie Mala. We have Kriyan, and by extension, Pundit Hardeo as well. We have all these members here, and thank you. I think we are holding hands virtually, and this is a strength. And these are some of the members of the Mandir in the light of COVID. When COVID would have intensified, it would have assisted us in also it intensifying our devotion to Bhagwan. And sometimes I feel lonely when I don't have some of the members of our Mandir accompanying me in some of these avenues. And oh, you would not believe, it brings a great sense of joy and a sense of family when it is that we can have this kind of support. So commendations and blessings to the Todd Street Mandir. Auntie Miles, when you were doing that lovely bhajan, you reminded me of one of the verses of the Gita Mahatmya, where it says, Ekam Shastram Devaki Putra Gitam, Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva, Eko Mantrastasya Namani Yani, Karmavi Ekatasya Devasya Seva. And this is a beautiful line that we should remember. This is the last verse of the Mahatmya, where it is that Ekam Shastram Devaki Putram Gitam. There need be only one holy scripture, this divine Gita, and it is sung by Sri Krishna himself. Eko Devo Devaki Putra Eva. There is only one to worship, that Lord Krishna, and there's only one mantra chanting his holy name, and there's only one duty of devotional service that you should do, and that is to surrender to that supreme worship of that Lord Sri Krishna. So this is what we are doing tonight, my dear friends, everybody, and we are learning. The faculty of Gyan needs to be there, and we are learning about that Purushottam, the he who has created this Jagat and this entire universe. But man can get so interwoven, even if it is that, you see, the mind, where you send this mind, this is where it will go. So if you sit down thinking and engaging in all of these things, because from thought you have speech, from speech you have action. So you are the karma that starts from here. Where have this karma come from? You have brought this with the migration from one body to another. And these things will develop after time. So like a child, we take, for example, a child. When a baby is born, the child is not even seeing proper, is not tasting proper. But as time goes on, that child learns to see and touch and taste and identify. And so too, when this child can learn to touch and taste and see and identify now, his organs of perception grows. So too, as we grow these organs of perception now, when we come into contact with these things, these senses now, this is how we can be attached further. And it is the nature of karma now revealing itself, if I may say. Through this attachment of all of the objects we will come into contact with in this jagat, in this world. Because this Purushottam, who we have spoken about in the ending portion of this chapter, is speaking about something to Arjuna that he needs to detach. And this level of thought is a mature conversation that we need to have in life. Because, you know, when people are speaking about death and the elder person speaks about death, the others may say, no, 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 don't speak about that. You have to speak about it. Whether you're old, whether it is that you're young, you have to speak about this. And you have to, that shows a level of maturity and detachment. But when it is that we are like the child and we are engaging now the senses in all of these things, we are causing now further karma to grow. And the purpose of this birth is to exhaust karma. But when you inculcate karma, you have to take birth in one of these lokas, one of these regions, what Bhagavan is speaking about here. But in this first portion, you know, of this 15th chapter and in the 4th verse, it says, Narupa masya tatopalabhyate, in the 3rd verse rather, and we were speaking about asanga sastrena didena chitva. You have to destroy this, not with a weak axe. It says a strong axe. And this is the strong axe of detachment, fueled by knowledge. So this is what we are doing here. But the 4th verse is very, very important, that Tataha param tat parimargitavyam yasmin gata nanivartanti bhuyaha tameva chadhyam purusham prapatye yataha pravitye prasata purani. You know, when the mind is matured, there's a level of responsibility that you will have with that maturity of intellect. And our dharma inculcates now, through the process of the 16 samskars now, different levels of motivation in the mind. And from a child up until death, you have the performance of samskar. And this helps the being, if I may, to evolve in life. And when he is evolving now, through these samskar, they act as what the earlier portion, Yastam Veda Saveda Vita. He is using now the guide of the Veda through this portion of the samskar in which he has engaged himself in now, to have a level of maturity. So even through different ashrams of life, brahmachari, grihasti, vanprast, sannyas, now you have the different forms of evolution of the mind as well. Like I made a joke with Bhaiji when I was sending a little bio. One of the things I told him is that about personal interest. When you're sending a bio, I'm not a person to send any long bio. My name is so-and-so. I'm a Pundit. I enjoy doing this. So I send a little something. I said, what is my personal interest? I said, none. Due to the responsibilities of the Grihasti ashram, I have no personal interest these days. But you see, this interest there, this motivation, the Grihasti ashram, I think Bhagavad Gita, I have to explain this down to the dot, the comma, the letter, to all those who are the grihastis, because they have a very important duty. They have to train out children. And in the midst of frustration, in the midst of duties, of everything now, you have to hope now that the child has an understanding of this Bhagavan in the form of Purushottam, what this chapter is inculcating. He who is beyond everything, destruction, he is beyond the perishable and imperishable. But you cannot get this if you are not present in satsang to understand now, regardless of which lok, Brahm lok, Vishnu lok, Shiv lok. 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita explains all of this and also reminds that it is temporary. All of those lokas are temporary. So the goal that we need to seek now is being explained here a little bit further. Tataha param tat parimargitavyam. When you get this goal of Paramatma, when you get that, because you have evolved now through the different levels of life, where we were speaking about brahmachari, grihasti, vanprast. Each level you have to have a different mentality to greet the duties and the responsibilities, so that you are not attached to the maya of the prior ashram of life. But when it is that you inculcate Hari now to seek refuge in him, to know that Purusha, where everything has been from, it assists you in getting that mukti, that moksha, what we are speaking about here. And I don't know that, well, I think we could have another forum possibly, but there's different levels of mukti. You know, many of us, we think about this thing, moksha, if I may just as a slip on. Moksha is not only dying and going up the road. Moksha is experienced in different levels. And in my program, I always try to touch on Jivan Mukta, being liberated while you are here. Something is very hard, being liberated while you are here. So Jivan Mukta is one of the ways where I loosely explain having that mukti. So when you are liberated now, detached from all of these things, recognizing Hari all around, recognizing Hari in self now, it is easier to have that, which chapter 8 says, Antakale chamamevam smaran muktva kale varam yaprayati samadbhavam yatrinasaya samsayaha. At the ending moment, you have to have his remembrance, smaranam. And if you can't remember him now, it is problems. So if you know everything is down to him in this cosmos, in this universe now, how will you have problems identifying Bhagavan? So it is easier to remember him. So Jivan Mukta is one of the ways where it helps you to connect now with Mahamukti. And there's Sarupya, Samipya, Salokya, and Sayuj Mukti. So Sarupya is like having a form just like that Lord. So according to some karma, you might gain that as well. Samipya is living in the same, or Salokya rather, is living in the same planet. So Sarup is like having a form, Rup is the form, Lok is the abode. So living in the same company. So this is why you will hear in certain kathas that this one would have performed such karma, he would have gone through all of these religious activities, and he earned a place in Shivlok. So that is temporary. After Shivlok, he has to come back right here now to go through again all of these things to eventually get Mahamukti. So even the level of Mukti, it is not that in itself, that Mahamukti, you can go through this, that Rup, Sami, Piya, Salokya, but you still have to attain that Mahamukti. So until you have not understood now all of this, what Bhagavan is saying, that power of detachment will never be there. So you have to understand what you are detaching from, because everything has sprung from him. Everything has sprung from that Bhagavan. So Bhagavan tells now in these few other verses, Bhaiji told me that I can end at 10 o'clock tonight. So I hope everybody here is logged in. I'm joking. Bhaiji tell me to end another appropriate time, 8:15, 8:30. So we are coming to the end closely. So let us put it on a little fourth or fifth gear. Bolo Sri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai. Govinda jai jai, Gopal jai jai. Govinda jai jai, Gopal jai jai. Radharaman Hari, Govinda jai jai. Radharaman Hari, Govinda jai jai. Govinda jai jai, Gopal jai jai. Govinda jai jai, Gopal jai jai. Radharaman Hari, Govinda jai jai, ho Radharaman Hari. Govinda jai jai, ho Radharaman Hari. Govinda jai jai. Bole Govinda Bhagavan ki jai. Nirman moha jit sanga dosha, adhyatma nitya vinivichya kama, dvandvai vimukta sukha dukha sangai, gachanya mudha paramabhyayam tata. न तद्भासयते सूर्यो न शशांको न पावकः यद्गत्वा निवर्तन्ते तधामं परमं मम ममैवांशो जीवलोके जीवभूतः सनातनः मनः शस्त्राणि इन्द्रियाणि प्रकृतिष्ठानि कर्षति शरीरं यदवाप्नोति यच्चाप्युत्क्रामतीश्वरः गृहीत्वैतानि संयाति वायुर्गन्धानि वासयात् श्रोत्रं चक्षुस्पर्शनं च रसनं घ्राणमेव च अधिष्ठाय मनश्चायं विषयानुपसेवते उत्क्रामन्तं सितं वापि भुञ्जानं वा गुणावितं विमुधानानुपश्यन्ति पश्यन्ति ज्ञानचक्षुषः यतन्तो योगिनश्चैनं पश्यन्त्यात्मन्यवस्थितं यतन्तोऽप्यकृतात्मानो नैनं पश्यन्त चेतसः बोले श्री कृष्ण भगवान की जय वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय. So in these verses here, my dear friends, the Lord is speaking to Arjuna And he's telling now about the mindset now we need to have. Nirmana moha jita sanga dosha, a mind that has little pride, a mind that has no delusion. Pride is something very hard to get out of this mind, because the simplest bit of power a man receives, it can corrupt him. So we have to work now not to be corrupted about that. So free from pride, free from delusion, and adhyatma nitya vinivitya kama. But before that, jita sanga dosha, all of the attachments now, you have to conquer them now. Because when you have freed yourself from pride, when you have freed yourself from delusion, all of these attachments now, you can assist yourself a little bit further to contemplate and to think about Bhagwan, because these things can be like the calling of the senses, the cravings of the senses. This chapter describes those who have curbed or controlled now the cravings of the senses. They are immune now from the opposites, the pairs of opposite. So Bhagwan tells in this chapter that man has to be the same in pleasure and pain, joy, sorrow, all of these things. And it's something very hard to develop. And life, as we grow, this is something that we will understand, that the movement of the universe, what happens in this world, and karma, we are not to trouble ourselves immensely, because the happenings of this world is according to that Purushottam who we are speaking about here. And as we grow in life now, that karma, we can only deserve to understand that simply that, oh Lord, give me that vardhan, that blessing to understand you through this blessing of life, that drishti, that sight we need to develop as the bhakta. And when you have this now, to liberate yourself now, this verse is speaking about being undeluded and reaching the goal. But when it is that you can reach that goal now, that moksha, we spoke a little bit about sarup, samipya, salokya, and sayuj. When you liberate yourself now, you are liberating yourself from what the moon, it says that natad bhasayati suryo, that which the sun illuminates not, nor the moon, nor the fire, nor my supreme, that is my supreme abode, where they do not return. When you have put that focus of Bhagavan, when you have surrendered to him, you are not living a life that is separate of him. You have surrendered to that Lord, and you have understood that what we were speaking about, that jiva is part of Bhagavan. And it helps us to emancipate now in this birth and death process, so that we will not return here. But only when it is, when it is that we were speaking about a little bit Shrad Karam. When Shrad Karam is going on, and we're hearing now about this jiva is a part of the Lord, and according to karma now, he will take a birth now according to the actions he did or the things that he did not do. And according to the senses, according to whatever, this will determine his location in this prakriti as well. But there's karma being explained here in this chapter. And a lot of depth goes on to that Atma, where it is that it tells about when it is that we have obtained this body, regardless now of your challenges in life, your modes of life, never lose track of that which is Bhagwan. And when it is that process of birth and death happens now, you are remembering him. You are not carrying these karmas now with you. You have exhausted such. So I do hope that this experience helps you in experiencing further that supreme. I do hope that these verses rather, one of the verses, it speaks a little bit about yatanto yoginas chainam, that those who are the striving ones, they develop this eye of wisdom, those who are striving. And in my opinion, it is forums like this assists us to conquer these gunas, to conquer that maya, to conquer that which is the greed in this chapter, which is speaking about, to recognize that Purushottam. That Gyan Chakshu can only be cultivated by your input, by your effort. And again, we mentioned special blessings has to be given to our forefathers, because without their striving, they were the original yogis, in my opinion, that would have brought these messages, preserved it so that we can now integrate it into forums like this, where it can be expressed worldwide to recognize Bhagwan, that Bhagwan who is dwelling in self. So refine your intelligence, my friends, and this is how it will assist us in seeing that Lord in that form of Purushottam, and we will not have been caught in this jagat, in this samsara of that regurgitation, only coming and going, coming and going. This is my blessing here today, that where it is that we have spent this little time, I hope that this simple session assists us in recognizing that form of Hari in this simple presentation of Purushottam Yoga. So before I end, I did say that we will offer a little prayer for the blessing of our Pitri, so that will be done after we have one little selection, I think, from Auntie Mati, who is there. I did confirm with Nandini and as well Auntie Mala and Auntie Mati. I think one of our members is experiencing a little technical difficulties. So after this contribution, we will offer a little prayer, and then Bhaiji, I will hand over to you so that you can you can go through your closing remarks. So at this time, Auntie Mati, if you are there, can you give us one more bhajan or kirtan, please? Or Nandini?
Sure, Pandit Shiva.
Yes, thank you.
Radhe 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 Govinda.
Radhe 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 Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Nanda Kumara Navanita Chora. Radhe Govinda.
Nanda Kumara Navanita Chora. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Yashoda Bala Yadukula Tilaka. Radhe Govinda.
Yashoda Bala Yadukula Tilaka. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Purna Purusha Punya Shloka. Radhe Govinda.
Purna Purusha Punya Shloka. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Pandarinatha Panduranga. Radhe Govinda.
Pandarinatha Panduranga. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Jai Jai Vithala Jai Hari Vithala. Radhe Govinda.
Jai Jai Vitthal Jai Hari Vitthal. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Radhe 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 Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Radhe Govinda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Vrindavan Chanda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Anathanatha Dina Bandhu. Radhe Govinda.
Bole Sri Krishna Kandhaya Lal ki jai. Thank you very much, Auntie Mati, for offering that lovely kirtan there, glorifying Bhagwan. My dear friends, today we have spent a little time and I have gone through just in brief some of these verses of the 15th chapter, Purushottam Yoga. I have started in the ending portion, just briefly explaining who is this Purushottam. And the few verses to the beginning, I have focused a little bit as the means and opportunity of how we can understand this world and also understand this body and the purpose of how we have achieved this and the purpose of detachment from everything where we have been placed. And we have to strive to recognize this and to appreciate this message, because it is not an easy thing to have this process of spiritual evolution. So the one who is striving with this now will achieve Bhagavan, like what the verse was speaking about, Yatanto Yoginas Chainam. So you have to refine the intellect and strive, but do not strive with an unrefining intellect, because it is like spinning the top in mud, as they say. So forums like this, as I say, to the Todd Street Mandir and all members, Bhagwan's blessings to you, and special blessings. Thank you to the members of the Spring Village Mandir for also holding hands with me virtually, and to one and all, and to all of the other speakers that would have contributed to these sessions virtually. God blessings. Wherever there's the name of Sri Krishna Bhagwan recited, there will always be the blessing of Hari, the blessing of Sri Hanumanji. Where there's that Yogeshwar, where there's his name being chanted. So as mentioned at the beginning, before I hand over to Bhaiji, let me bring on close to my portion of tonight. As I end, without the glory of our forefathers, our ancestors, those who would have sacrificed, our family members, without their contribution, forums like this for learning of this divine Gita would not have been possible. So special blessings needs to be extended to our pitris, wherever that those souls would have gone to. Let ultimately moksha prado bhava, moksha be given to them. Hari Om Shravanam Kirtanam Smaranam Padasevanam Archanam Vandanam Dasyam Sakyam Atmanivedanam Om Sri Pitramangalam Om Anadhi Nidado Devam Shankha Chakra Gadadharam Akshare Pundari Kaksham Pitramoksha Prado Bhava Pitramoksha Prado Bhava Pitramoksha Prado Bhava. बोले अरे माँ भगवान की जय, बोले श्री कृष्ण कन्हैया लाल की जय, बोले श्री व्यास महाराज की जय। ओम शांति शांति शांति, बोले श्री कृष्ण भगवान की जय। Thank you everyone. Bhaiji, I hand over to you now. Sit around.
Panditji, thank you very much. That was absolutely beautiful. You took a complicated chapter with many different interpretations, and you've made it so simple and easy to understand. So I want to thank you very much for sharing your wisdom with us. I want to thank the president and the devotees of the Spring Village Mandir. Thank you for glorifying us with your presence. To the beautiful singers, Nandini, Mala, Matiji, thank you very much. It is truly wonderful. I want to thank and recognize some Pandits in our presence. I'm seeing the spiritual head of the Sri Krishna Mandir, Pandit Rudranath Maharaj. I'm seeing Pandit Devendra Maharaj, my Pitaji, Shri Pandit Dudnath Vyas from Charleville. Welcome, Dad. My brother, Pandit Sivananda Maharaj, welcome. Pandit Haridev, welcome, Panditji. Great to have you in our presence. And to the members of the Srimad Bhagavad Gita class, we've been doing classes going into 3.5 years. Thank you very much for your continued support. We learn so much from your presence. We want to talk very briefly about the process that we are building up to. So tonight was the 7th in a series of lectures hosted by the Sri Krishna Mandir. And these lectures are both virtual and physical. And we are now culminating on that grand event on Saturday, the 3rd of December, starting at 7:30 a.m. with puja, and chanting will begin at 9 a.m. That is led by Pandit Devendra Rampasad, as well as Pandit Rudranath Maharaj. in person at the Sri Krishna Mandir. So the devotees of the Spring Village Mandir, you're more than welcome, and we'd be happy to have you across as our guest on that day. So if all of you, we would really appreciate if all of you could take the time and to bathe in the essence of Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So that brings to the end of the announcements. Really again to thank everyone for joining. This has been truly, for me, a wonderful experience. Bhagavad Gita is for all. It is not to be sung at the time of death. Rather, the Bhagavad Gita is the first scripture to be recited. It is the first text at the beginning of creation, as Sri Krishna said in chapter 4. And every other literature is built on the foundation of Bhagavad Gita. So as we close, I would like to chant one shloka of the Gita Mahatmyam and to briefly close this series of lectures. And then as we go into Saturday, Pandit Devendra Rampasad will also be doing the full Gita Mahatmyam. So this is a special shloka, and it goes like this. Shahayo jayate shigram yatra gita pravartate yata gita vicharasya patanam shrutam tatraham nishitam pritvi nivashami sadhaivahi. And this is where Sri Krishna is speaking to Dharati Mata, and he is saying where Bhagavad Gita is read, there comes help quickly. Where Bhagavad Gita is taught of, there he resides. Where Bhagavad Gita is spoken and heard, in that moment he resides. Hey Dharati Mata, hey Prithvi. Undoubtedly, when the name Bhagavad Gita or any syllable of the shlokas are recited, there I reside in that intellect in that moment. And Bhagavad Gita's Panaji says, is for all. And that is what these series of lectures are about. It's about Uttishta Paramtapa. How do we lift ourselves by ourselves using the power of our intellect? And that is the series of lectures that the Sri Krishna Mandir in San Fernando has decided to embark upon. And we are so very privileged to have the members of the Spring Village Mandir join us. So with that said, I would like to close with a very simple prayer. Hey Bhagwan Shri Krishna, everything comes to you directly or indirectly. Whatever actions we take, whatever thoughts, the speech, our physical actions, all of that comes to you directly or indirectly. Hey Bhagwan, please accept all of this as an offering onto you. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We begin in the name of Sri Ganesh, we end in the name of Sri Ganesh. Sri Ganesh is the rhythm of creation. He is that which has projected Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. He is the rhythm that the world, the creation revolves around. Hey Bhagwan Sri Ganesh, we bow before you. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. Thank you again, everyone. We hope to see everyone at the Mandir on Third Street. On Saturday, we start puja at 7:30, and we kick off with the chanting of all 18 chapters. We will have a number of personalities chanting different chapters, and refreshments will be provided at the end. And we really hope that you would come and join with us singing and chanting in the name of Bhagavad Gita. Shri Gita Mata Ki Jai. Sitram, everyone. Thank you.